The Dice Tower, episode 557. Reboot button. Oops.
The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. This episode is sponsored by USAopoly. Share laughter and make memories. Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them.
In today's show, we have a Dragon Tea Party, race in space, go digital with some apps, and take a look at some shelf staples. I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandi Hutchinson.
Mandi, I gotta talk about our show title that we picked. We're recording, or trying to record, and all of a sudden, our feed just freezes as we're talking about what to name this episode. And you disappear on me.
Yeah. So, I had to stretch out a little bit. I have long legs. And all of a sudden I'm like, oops, I think I toggled the off switch on my power bar. And then it came back on. So I legitimately had a reboot. And the reason why this is so funny is because a lot of the games that we're talking about are reimplementations or reboots. So come on, we had to go with this as the title.
It was definitely a well-timed random restart of the machine, I guess, if that's possible. Yeah.
It was a sign. We had to do it. So if anybody's wondering, that's why. Just go with it.
Maybe we're just out of practice because it's been a while since we've kind of had a quote-unquote regular episode, right? We were at CMON, and then we were recording with Eric or Tom and mixing it up a little bit. So it's nice to see you again.
Yes, you too. And, on that note, I know some people are going to be like, I'm having Tom withdrawals. I know we too are having Tom withdrawals, but he is a busy man and he will come back. It's starting con season. So he's traveling a lot. We're all trying to fill in and, keep the show going. So don't worry. He's coming back. So you're stuck with us for one more week, but I think we're going to try and make it super fun and you'll enjoy it.
There you go. Speaking of shows, for those of you who were interested in going to Dice Tower Con, I think it just officially sold out. That said, I would still, if you had desperate desires to go and you just realized you could go, or you didn't realize that it was that close to selling out, still ping and reach out to the Dice Tower Con organizers. Because I've got to say, I love Dice Tower Con. I admit I don't love Orlando in July. Not my favorite climate, but I love Dice Tower Con. It's so much fun. It's just a huge group of people playing fun games in a really light, friendly environment. And obviously Tom and Sam and Z and Eric and Crystal and everybody's going to be there. And so that's super fun too. But if you just want to go to a convention where you get to play games, meet people, have fun, I think Dice Tower Con's great for that. So definitely check that out, even though it's officially sold out. If this is probably your last chance to get on a wait list or anything right now. And then before Dice Tower Con, Mandi, we have
Origins. And Origins, actually my first Origins was only last year. So that was a totally different experience.
And see, this will be my first Origins this year.
But now this technically for me is going to be my first one. Well, I'll be the first one with Dice Tower. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm trying to convince Tom to get those very cushiony mats behind the desk. So, I want to stand all day and be comfortable. Not to say that it's not comfortable, but you're on your feet, you're chatting. It's a lot of talk. So let's see if we can make it magical.
No, for reals. It's a lot of walking. It's a lot of standing at any of these kind of bigger shows. I'm really excited. Origins has been on my wish list of conventions. Now I think my big wish list now is topped by Tokyo Game Market, but
yeah, that'd be cool.
With me actually getting to go to Origins, but I'm super excited, not only because it looks like a super fun show, but I hear the food is amazing in the North Market. That's all I ever hear about Origins and Origins previews and things like that, are all the people excited about the food.
I haven't been. So, we know Tom has his pulse on what's good on the food area. So there you go. Tom, calling you out. We want good food.
Be our guide. Be our guide. And of course, we're going to be recording live. I don't think next episode should be Tom and Eric back. But then the episode afterwards, we're all going to be recording together live at Origins. So that'll be super fun.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking forward to it. It's nice when we can all get together and, spend the time together in person and have that vibe. I do find it comes through, and people have commented that they do like when the group is together. It's really great, especially when we don't always agree on things. It just makes it that much more exciting.
Oh, a little bit of tension is fun, I think, especially with such cool people.
Exactly.
But welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is, of course, a show about board games and card games. And I know, Mandy, I've been playing a lot of games and kind of have a backlog of stuff I want to talk about. So maybe we dive right into it?
But wait, I have to tell my funny story. I know, I'm sorry. It's not gaming, but we are filming or recording. Sorry, I'm so used to saying filming because I've been doing videos for a bit there. And I had told Suzanne about a story. So I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but I live in like the woods. And so you can hear a lot of the birds. Hold on. Okay, they've gotten a little quiet.
I love that. Hold on. Silence.
Yeah, they're quiet. So this morning I thought, usually I wake up to the lovely, songs of a wonderful bird. And I woke up to, and I'm like, oh gosh, what is that? So I thought maybe it was a crow. And then it went off again. That is not a crow. It was a blue jay. Now, blue jays are very pretty, but dear goodness, oh my, they sound horrific when they caw like that. So that's how my morning started. So I've opened the window. If you hear that, the blue jay is back. I apologize.
Noted. I'll let you know if I hear the blue jay through the audio.
Okay, so now we can talk about games. I just had to share that.
Awesome.
All right, so now we're ready to talk about, what you came here for, some board games. Gosh, I feel so rusty. All right, so the first game I'm going to talk about is The Last Garden. This is designed by Matt Christensen and Chris Rowlands. The artist, my beloved Beth Sobel, and the publisher, 1000 XP. So it's a 2 to 4 player game, and it plays in about 30 to 45 minutes. So literally the theme in this game, robots and botanists. You're like, what? Those don't go together. So it's a worker placement and kind of betting game. And in the game, players control a number of robotnists, and you're trying to build a garden out of scraps and gems. On a turn, players place your robotnists on the board, and there are different areas on the board that you can place them. And you play a card, which can shift structures in the garden or manipulate the gems that are on the board. And this is kind of important because if you are in an area with a majority of gems, that's great for you. That's more points. At the end of a set number of days, the player who has gained the most favor will win. So that's the general gist of the game. Now, looking at the art, it's Beth Sobel, so I love it. It's a little more muted than what she usually does, but I actually really enjoyed it here. And I get it for the themes because you're trying to put two worlds together. You've got soft flowers and, garden colors. And then you have robotness, which is kind of like a harder, cooler tone working together with these kind of warm tones. I didn't mind the merging of the themes. I thought it was very interesting that they would take these two things and put them together. I did find some of the colors with the gems and things like that were a bit jarring to me.
Oh, interesting.
So, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to say it, but it's just like, like I didn't have a good reaction to those colors. Not to say that they couldn't have the contrast of the bright against the soft. I just didn't like those choices. And it was colors that I think generally are harder for people to see who are colorblind, like the red, and green and things like that. And it was very light. Now, I don't know. It's probably hard to get those gems, and certain colors are very expensive. That part didn't appeal to me, but I liked the fact that they tried to do something different with those two themes. I did find the game for me, and I know the group that we played with, we found it went on a little long. So it's a type of game where the mechanics are very straightforward. You have a set number of cards, you're playing these cards, manipulating the board, and you're playing it over, several rounds. I find that with games like that, it's always interesting, but then when I get near the end, I'm like, okay, I feel like I've accomplished what I needed to accomplish. I didn't need those extra rounds to do it. So it just feels like one round too long. Now, cutting the round may affect the gameplay. Right. For me, I just felt like it could have been a little tighter in that regard. And it's only a 30 to 45 minute game, but I started to feel it. And when I start to feel it, that's not necessarily a good thing. But overall, I liked the fact that it was simple in the fact that you had a certain amount of cards. It wasn't overly complex, but you could really affect other players. but you can affect other players without being mean. Well, not being overly mean. Let's go with that. Because a lot of people I play with don't generally like those kind of strong take that games. But in this game, it felt like a light ribbing, you know, like, ha ha, take that versus a ha, take that.
Okay.
So I did enjoy that aspect of it. I do find the game requires player aids, and that's not a huge deal. I say that about a lot of games.
Sure.
I don't like having to refer back and forth to the rule book, and we're all passing it around. Player aids are great. Okay, so that's always something that I'm always going to recommend that people have. Not a deal breaker. Overall, I enjoyed it. It's one I could actually play. It's short enough that I could play it at lunch, but it's a game I would have to kind of go through first before I would show people, because I think it would take a longer time going through it, even though it's not overly complex. I liked the two themes kind of colliding or coming together, two worlds. But like I said before, I had some issues with some of the color choices of the components. But overall, I enjoyed it. So my level of enjoyment, I think for me, was definitely swayed by the length of the game. I think had it been just a touch shorter, I would have liked it a little bit more, but the mechanics for the most part are solid, and it's a simple enough gameplay, but still, like I said, you can have some influence on other players as well.
That's cool. You know, this is one that I actually backed this on Kickstarter. I just haven't managed to get it to the table yet. And great to hear your comments on it. I know you kind of touched on this, but the one thing I know about it is the theme is the gentlest, darkest theme I've ever seen in a board game. And definitely kudos to 1000 XP for coming up with something unique, because it's this robot, but it's like post-apocalyptic. You may not realize it, but it's about this last human, and she's cobbled together these robots that are helping her create these mechanical gardens to replicate the beauty of gardens when things were living. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. This is dark.
I feel dark, and it feels like it could be really deep, and like you could take that philosophically. Like I feel like it could definitely go places.
For sure. I mean, it does look very pretty, and the art all feels very thematic. I'm looking forward to trying it. It's interesting what you say about gameplay. It's interesting what you say about lunchtime too, and maybe a topic for future discussion about for these lunch hour games that we all would love to have a lunch group, right? How do you count a lunch hour game? Does it include the teach or not? Because sometimes, right, a 40-minute game becomes an hour and 20-minute game with a teach, depending on the game. So interesting.
And dependent on the player. So to be fair, and I'm glad you brought this up, I play generally with a group. They're gamers. So especially my friend Chris, when I play with him, like even if we haven't learned the rules, we can really quickly, and he's got it. I wish I had a brain like that. For me, I have to physically play it to learn it, but he can I read it out, yep, got it, done. So it's a lot shorter. When I'm playing with one of the other groups who maybe are not, when I say gamers, they're not just regular gamers, it's new to them. Definitely something that I need to learn in advance and have it down of how I'm going to teach it, because yes, it can extend the length of play. So this is one, if you were going to bring it without learning it, it needs to be people who are familiar with gaming and rule books and to go through it quickly. Someone who's new, you might want to learn it in advance because it will go over the hour, I think. Yeah, so that's The Last Garden.
A game that you could definitely play in a lunch hour is Long Live the Queen. Now, interestingly enough, on BGG, this does not have a credited game designer. It was originally published in Japan under this Circle 3D6, and they're kind of a design collective, a publishing collective in Japan. So I'm not sure how they work that out with designer credit, but it's pretty rare. You don't, especially in a non-mass market game, that you don't see a designer credited. But for me, the copy of the game I have is by Ludi Creations. And I think they ran a Kickstarter for this one. Well, I know they did because I backed it, and that's how I have the game. Another interesting element about this one is that there's actually Ludi published two editions. They published what is essentially a reprint of the Japanese version with the Japanese kind of anime style art. And then they published an edition placed in their diesel punk world of Crisis. So Ludi has this entire world.
Yes.
And
oh, sorry. I backed Crisis. So when you said that, my heart jumped a little bit.
Same world. Not the same game by any means, but same world. So there's two different editions of the game that you can buy today, but the only difference is the art. So, I mean, it's kind of just pick an aesthetic preference. It's pretty rare that publishers do this, so I always think it's interesting when you get that. But Long Live the Queen is a 2-player game in which you are trying to nullify the opposing group. And you each have the same tiles, and they're nice little tiles instead of cards. And you're going to lay them out face down in rows that face each other along this little board that marks the locations 1 through 12. So there's a slot for each, you randomize, and put them out. And then you have a dice. You roll the dice determine which location gets activated, and then things happen. Ultimately, only the center one, the princess, stays face up. And you can win the game by forcing your opponent's princess to go face down, to flip face down, or by collecting a certain number of these influence or prestige tokens. So you roll the dice and you activate a location. Well, if the tile is face down, you flip it face up. If the tile is already face up, then you activate its special ability. And there's a nice amount of variety in these. The abilities can let you swap tile locations. They can let you move down the thing. They can let you assassinate or snipe an opponent's card, which makes it flip over. Or you can gather those victory point prestige, or the prestige tokens that get you towards your victory. And so there's a lot of manipulation of these tiles as they're flipping over, and you realize, oh, these two across from each other aren't any good for me, so I want to move this one away. Or, oh, now my princess is threatened by that sniper on the other way. I need to think about that and get her moved and things like this. It's very, very tactical, with a lot of kind of tactical back and forth. You're definitely scanning this row to see what's flipped up and how that could impact your row or how that can impact their row. You're always thinking ahead. And I really like that back and forth gameplay. In the beginning, there's actually a lot of excitement. Everything starts face down as you get to place these tiles. And then there's a little bit of interesting energy as the dice are rolled and you're revealing tiles and you're seeing what your opponent placed and where they placed it. And then you're kind of gearing up for how you react to that. I really like that early game energy. Now, I personally feel that it gets a little slow in the mid game. So after things are revealed and you're kind of jockeying back and forth, you're maybe collecting some prestige tokens or moving your princess out of the threat zone. Felt like maybe that mid game slowed down just a tad. But I definitely enjoy this game as a 2-player tactical back and forth kind of tug of war thing. It's very abstract. It's an abstract game with very, very pretty art. And that's cool because I love 2-player abstract games. And that's probably part of why Long Live the Queen appeals to me. The dual art is super interesting that they did that. I mentioned that earlier. It's really just personal preference. I prefer the diesel punk, which is, Ludi's word for this world that they've created. I prefer that art set. It just looks cool, but also there's unique art for each character in that set, where there's some repetitive art in the Japanese edition. I don't think they commission new art for it. No big deal. And again, there's no gameplay difference. So you can kind of pick and choose which one you want, or which one you prefer. But Long Live the Queen plays fairly quickly. Lots of tactical back and forth. I definitely like the action and the flipping of the cards and how all that works. I think it's a clever design. And in spite of that kind of mid-game slowness that I felt, I still really enjoy it. And that's Long Live the Queen.
I definitely, you had me when you talked about the whole tactical back and forth. I'm a very reactive player, so I'm not a planner. It doesn't matter how much I try. My hopes get dashed. I can't figure it out. I like to react to something that happens. Okay, I can do this now. Do you know what I mean? So, and I find sometimes with 2-player games, that doesn't always work out for me. It's nice when I have a lot of people, but the fact that this is 2-player and you can do that, I like that. How do you think this will work out for people who are planners?
I think that you can only go so far because you can't control what locations are going to get activated. Right. And you can't really control what your opponents are going to do. So you have to be flexible. You have to be able to be tactically flexible to make this game work. I would argue your strategy, your plan ahead can only go so far. And that's okay, right?
No, absolutely.
Different games have different strengths. And I would say that the tactical reaction and plan and kind of ability to optimize a situation is where Long Live the Queen shines.
Perfect. Yeah, definitely one I'd be very interested. It seems to appeal to my strengths, so I'm going to have to give that a go.
I'm interested in hearing about your game because I haven't tried it yet, but I'm horrible at memory games, so I really want to hear what you think about this one.
Okay, I was going to say, we're done. No more games, right? I was just ready to leave. Or, oh, no, there's more?
No,
sorry.
Tell me about the game. Sit down.
Okay, so the next game that I'm going to talk about is Memoaar. Okay, let's try that again. Memoaar. Okay, I think that's close enough.
Yeah.
It's Memoaar with a lot of R's, so we'll go with that. Designer is Carlo Bortolini. The artist is Pablo Fontagnier. Publisher is Pegasus Spiel, and recently Stronghold Games has acquired it. 2 to 4 players, and it plays in about 10 to 20 minutes, maybe for the first game slightly longer. So here we go. Memory card game. Never in a million years did I think I'd be talking about this, and wait, potentially like it. All right, let's jump in. So the goal is to try and collect the most gems on treasure cards. And so you won't know what these are because they're face down. And at the end of the game, you'll reveal and it'll show you how many gems are on these cards. But that's the goal. You're trying to collect as much of these gems as possible. Players in the game are going to reveal locations that are connected by the animal or landscape to the most recently revealed location. So you flip up a card, and let's say it has a penguin with a green background. The next card you flip needs to have either something in common with that card. So either the green background or the penguin, or, well, potentially both. So, but at least one thing in common in order to kind of stay in the game. Because as soon as you make a mismatch, you're out. Okay, and you got to take one of the cards to say, okay, I'm out of the game. So you don't get a treasure, but you're out. So then you keep doing that for the game, and that's literally it. You played over a few rounds. At the end of the round, person with the flips up all their treasures, and the person with the most gems on their treasure cards will win. Fairly straightforward, right? There is a variant, and I actually liked the variant. So we played a few times without the variant, which was fine, and you know they recommend that you do that. The variant, it's the same game, except now the animals have special abilities. So if you flip up an animal and then you have like a matching animal, it tells you, so for example, if I flip a crab and then I reveal another crab, it means that I am obligated to flip another card. That is the ability of the crab. That could actually be a problem, especially if you didn't remember where you saw another crab. So that could actually boot you out of the game, but it is there potentially to help you. So there are other powers with the different ones. There's penguins and stuff, and they let you do things. I think the octopus lets you rearrange the cards, which normally you wouldn't do, but you can rearrange orthogonally adjacently the cards around the octopus that you reveal. So things like that. And that definitely makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
So normally I despise memory games because I'm awful at them. Okay. There's no shame in my game. I will fully admit it. As someone who has ADHD, our memories, and I shouldn't say all, but a lot of us, our memories are very short. So I could flip a card and within 3 seconds, I've forgotten what I've just flipped. So I try to play games like this to kind of jog my memory, but sometimes, you know, they can leave you feeling awful about yourself. And I don't find this game did that. I think I liked the abilities or the powers because it gave you an opportunity, right, to affect other players who potentially may be slightly better at the game than you, but it kind of may throw them off a little bit and kind of, you know, make it a little more difficult for them to win. So I definitely think I liked the game, but I did prefer playing it with the variant.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Made it more interesting. So I think that if you're not a big fan of memory games, I actually think you will like this. It's not difficult. It's not long. And it's one of those games where you're in the situation most people are actually really terrible at it the first go around. And then, like I said, having those abilities, trying to make it interesting and kind of makes people feel like they're a bit more on the level playing field. But I like the fact that you can tailor it to be very straightforward or simple, potentially for a younger group. And then if you're playing with, you know, more experienced players or they just want a bit more, you know, abilities in the games, you can add that variant. So that is Memoaar.
Do you think that, because my kids are 6 and 9, how do you think this plays with kiddos? Because a lot of times kids are really great at memory style games. I know my kids are better than me at it.
I think on the box it actually says 6+. I definitely think it's doable. So,
okay. And
I actually think they could very well play with the variant. Obviously, for the first go around, I think you should play without it. But no, I think it'd be great with kids. And like I said, it's a game that won't, when you add those bits to it, it won't make people feel like, oh, I didn't remember it. It makes you upset. I think it would be a nice game for kids or families.
Well, we're recording this on the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend here in the United States. So I've got a few free days with my kiddos to maybe pull out a game. And I might push this one to the top of the list with them and give it a whirl. Thanks, Mandy.
Yeah. Oh, no problem. I definitely think they'll like it.
Next up, I wanted to talk about Powerships. This is going back to our reboot theme, right? This is actually a remake, a refresh of a game called Powerboats. It's designed by Corné van Moorsel. This art is by Stephen Tu, and it's published by Quali. And Powerboats was also by, I forget when Powerboats came out, but Powerships was on Kickstarter a little bit ago. I jumped on it and so glad I did. Powerships is a race game set in space. So you've got these tiles that link together to create a big board, and there's planets printed on them and different board elements printed on them. And you've got your little ship piece that is this really great looking plastic molded tiny, spaceship, and you're just trying to rocket this around. You put out 3 or more buoys that you have to go around as you're starting on a planet. You have to go around all these buoys and make it back to your starting planet, and voila, the race is done. Now, that may or may not sound interesting to people. The way you do this is you have 3-sided dice, and you have this, I don't know what you would call it, speed strip or something. Each player has their own. 3-sided dice, people. 3-sided. You heard me correctly. Not 4-sided, not 8-sided. 3-sided. Okay. They're kind of, they're not pyramids like a 4-sided dice, but it's kind of a triangular cylinder. And they're gorgeous. They're these really rich, vaguely swirly blue color, and they're really well-made dice. I love these 3-sided dice. If you have a game that you need 3-sided dice for, buy Powerships just for the dice. And what happens is you get a die, you roll it, and you put it on your board. And that's your speed, 1, 2, or 3. And that's how many spaces you can move. The next turn, you have a choice. You have a decision to make. You can add a die and roll it and add it to your board. And now you're probably going a little faster, right? Maybe if you had a 2 before and you have another 2, now you're moving 4 spaces. You can keep what you have, or you can remove a die to slow down. And so you have so many spots to add these 3-sided dice as you go, and controlling your speed, which is essentially the distance you move, is really core to this game. Making smart decisions and playing the odds on when you add dice or take them away, when you re-roll them, when you don't, it is central to the game. And it is a brilliant mechanism. It's so simple and intuitive, and it just works. What happens is you get to aim your ship. All the spots are hexes. So you get to aim your ship in a direction. You look at your speed, and you move that number of spots in that direction straight. If you hit a planet or head off the edge of the board, you lose all your speed and you get frozen and all this other stuff. Now, there are board elements too, though. Things that will shove you to the side when you hit them. Things that will rotate your ship when you hit them. Things that will speed you up. So maybe you were planning on moving 3, but now you have to move 5, and oops, now you hit a planet. So paying attention to what's on the board, where you're going to go, how fast you need to do. Maybe you want to hit that speed up. Maybe you don't. That kind of thing. Very, very thoughtful play. But it plays so quickly. I've played 5-player game, 32 minutes, done. Easy peasy. It's a great race game. And I don't enjoy race games that feel slow, because hello, you're racing. They should feel quick and snappy and fast. And Powerships definitely has that energy to it, because the mechanisms are so simple and the decisions are, you're definitely being thoughtful, but somehow it doesn't lend itself to analysis paralysis. Mm-hmm. So people are making pretty quick turns. And I love Powerships. It is a fantastic race game. That 3-sided die, it's just so cool. The components themselves are great. It's a fabulous, fabulous race game. Now, if I had a complaint about the game, the way you set up the board is modular too, which is awesome, right? Because then the course is always mixed up and it's not predictable. And I love that too. But these tiles, there's 4 or 5 different shapes of tiles that you have to assemble at the beginning of the game. Oh. And it's like a puzzle because they're not symmetrical. And it's a little fiddly, not fiddly, but whenever we set up the board, it's always like we're flipping tiles and we're rotating them to figure out how they lock together so it creates the right shaped board. Right. So a little bit of weird setup there. Totally worth it. But in some ways, I wish it was a little simpler to set up because of the oddly shaped tiles. But in the end, that's just a quibble because Powerships is such an excellent, fun racing game. It's totally worth it. So that's Powerships from Koali. So
while you were doing that, I decided to go on my trusty computer and do a little search. And it was 2008
Nice. For power boats.
Yeah, for power boats.
Gotcha.
Hearing you talk about this, so now are the dice the same blue hue as my hair?
A little more royal. You have more mermaid with a little bit of aqua hair.
So yeah, I had to throw that in because if people are looking for me at cons now, my hair is no longer silver. It is a multitude of blues. Anyway, I digress. I had to toss that in there. It seemed like a good time to toss that. Sure. But my actual gaming question was going to be, have you played Junk Orbit yet?
Not yet. Don't rub it in.
Okay. No, because as you're talking about this, it reminds me of certain similar elements in Junk Orbit, with the whole racing, and then you're trying to deliver cargo and stuff, and there's speeds, but it's based on the tiles you have. Like, I won't go into too many details because we'll talk about it in a future episode, but I'm really curious now, after you play Junk Orbit, to see if you find those similarities, if you liked one better than the other. Anyway, so now I'm curious.
All right. Well, I've got Junk Orbit on my list to hit up on next Tuesday at my Tuesday game night, so I'll let you know.
Perfect. Well,
speaking of Renegade, though.
It's a much better segue than some others I've done. So, speaking of Renegade games, I recently played the Tea Dragon Society card game. This is designed by...
This game is so cute.
Oh my gosh. Oh, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. Okay, designed by Steve Ellis II, Tyler Tinsley. Artist is Josh T. McDowell and Katie O'Neill. And, well, published by Renegade Games. So this game, let's start off by saying, super cute. But in the game, each player has their own dragon, and it has a special ability, and then everybody has their own deck. Now, the cards are generally the same for the most part for each player, with the different types of cards. But in essence, you're trying to build your deck. So you're going to have some market cards available to you, and you're going to have some season cards available to you. So from turn to turn, players draw cards. So these are the actions you can do. You can draw a card, or you can potentially purchase cards from the market, or one of the season cards. And this is good if you purchase from the market because it builds up your deck. These cards will also trigger other actions, so it allows you to choose more cards. Again, trying to get cards with growth or money in order to buy more market cards. It happens over 4 seasons. So there's spring, summer, winter, fall, and there's, I think it's 4 that come out. And there's a set that comes out, and when there's one left, it triggers the end of that season, and then you wipe and start over again. That's the general gist of the game. I didn't realize, before I even get into that, to win the game, you want to basically have the most points, and that is by counting all the points on the growth or market cards that you had, and any cards that you had that were season cards, because some of them also incorporate endgame scoring as well. So most points wins in that way. Now I can talk about the fact that I didn't realize that, first of all, the artists are Canadian.
Oh, and, I did not know that.
As far as I was told. So if I'm wrong, please correct me. But that's what I was told. They're Canadian. I think, was it the artists that were Canadian? Well, somebody that's involved in the game. So I shouldn't say that it's the artist, but somebody involved in the game is Canadian because I know it was posted. It's going to Toronto. And I didn't realize it was a graphic novel or a comic.
Yeah. Katie O'Neill does these beautiful pieces. Yeah.
So I had no idea. I'm got to tell you, by playing this game, it makes me now want to go out and acquire or read these graphic novels. And literally, it's based on the fact that the art is just so darn cute. It's beautiful, actually, but it's just super cute as well. The gameplay itself, listen, it is the lightest game ever. It is super, super light. But I don't care because it was enjoyable and it engaged me to play. So if you're looking for some strategic card game that, it's going to make my brain burn, well, keep it moving. This is not going to be for you. However, I can appreciate the art. It drew me in the fact that I now want to go and read the comics to find out more about the story. So people who are fans will actually just really love this, right? Because it'll tie it into what they already know. So they're familiar with that world. So it will reinforce that base of the people who are fans of the graphic novels. This is a great game to travel with. Granted, the box is a little bit bigger than average for a travel box, but you could easily just throw that in a bag and take it with you. I like the fact that it would be very easy to teach. And I think everybody that sees it will appreciate the art and it will kind of engage and draw them in. I think a friend, Eric, online that we chat with, he said pleasant. That was the word he used. And I think that is an accurate description of this game. Something that is good to go in this game, you can go for the season cards, which is what I did because they're bigger points values at the end of the game. And they also have some end game scoring. But we also had some people going for more of the growth cards in the market, which again can also have either really good abilities, which will help you get better cards, or will just have more point values on them. So I personally liked the season cards and then I can rush the end. So that way we can move on and I can win, which I did not. I came in second, but that's okay.
Wah, wah,
For the
wah.
first play. So that is the Tea Dragon Society card game. Love, love, love it.
I really like that. The graphic novel has its own following. The artist has her own following. And I love the idea that fans of the comic would find out, oh, there's this great little game. Oh, it looks cute. Let's try it. I love the idea that the game may match, if this is your first non-mass market game that you've tried, that maybe it is a little bit simpler in the rule set to kind of get you familiar with deck building, right? Essentially. And I think that that's so great. Now, obviously, people's gateways are all different into playing, hobby games, whether it's some people have Twilight Imperium as their gateway game, and that's fine. But I think that it's a great approach for this to be a lighter weight game that has the comics. And oh my gosh, the art is ridiculous. So that's really cool. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear you enjoyed it.
Very much. Very much.
Keeping up this trend, completely not coordinated, and I didn't even realize it until just now. I'm going to be talking about another Renegade game as well. Oh my goodness!
I swear they're not sponsoring the show.
No,
it just happened that way.
But I tried Prowler's Passage.
Ooh!
And now I've played it 3 or 4 times now, and it's a 2-player only game. Designed by J. Alex Cavern. Their games are wild. They are so clever, right?
Yeah.
And you think about World Fair and stuff like that, just so darn clever. But designed by J. Alex Cavern, it's got Saba Berneth and Pedro Cardosa as the artists, and of course published by Renegade. This 2-player game, now it's actually a game I got to preview a year and a half or more ago.
Oh, wow.
With Renegade Games in a prototype form. And I remember playing it in uglyware prototype, like paper, no art or anything like that, and just being intrigued by it and seeing what they go with. And now we've gotten kind of a pre-production copy. And the streak continues. This is a super clever game. I know 2-player can be very limiting for some gamers, which is unfortunate. But if you can get a 2-player game to the table, you should definitely check this one out. Basically, you've got hexes that get laid out, and they form this little city board that looks a little bit vaguely triangular in shape. And you have this, and I don't know any of the game terminology, so forgive me, but you've got this track board that lays at its base that has a number of different little building meeples that represent the different district types. And each turn it's really, really simple. You have these wooden sticks, these roads or passage sticks. And when you lay out the board, you put these tokens on the roadways. And then on your turn, you put a stick down, a passage stick down. You take the token that was there, and then you move these markers on this track based on what the adjacent sectors are. And so you get the token where you put your road, and then the sectors that are to the right and left of you, those are the tokens that you get to move towards you, because that track is essentially a tug of war dominance track where you want as many markers on your side of the halfway mark as possible. So you keep on doing that. You're putting out passageways, you're collecting tokens, and you're tug of warring with these meeples on this track back and forth as your opponent is doing the same. There are statues that you can get when they're completely surrounded by passages and stuff like that. There are 2 scoring rounds in the game, which I think was really smart from a game rhythm and strategy point of view. And when you score, there's all these different tokens that are out score in different ways. Well, there's different scoring elements, and then the tokens score as well. I should clarify that. Sorry. So there's set collection with these tokens. The more you have of them, the better you go. If you have the longest connected passage, you score. You get points for these statues. There's a few things that score. But you only get to score those things if you have control of the related district token on your tug of war. So if statues are controlled by the white building, and you have 4 statues, but you do not have control of that building on the track, they are meaningless. And that is so great. There's so much back and forth. There's so much tension. The board is randomized when you set up. The tiles are random, and then the tokens that go out are random. So each game, you're assessing the board, trying to figure out where your smartest moves are and what approach you want to do. it's going to be hard to try to control every district. So which ones are you going to give up on? Which ones are you really going to fight for? Which positions are critical for you to capture in order to maintain that control? Wow. All of these things are things that you're considering as you're going out. And of course, inevitably, your opponent takes a spot that you desperately wanted and needed, and then you yell at them and have a big fight, and it's lots of fun. I definitely really enjoy Prowler's Passage. That track is, the control of that track and the way that it impacts scoring is great. It's just great. The game plays quickly. I mean, I would say 30 to 45 minutes probably. Okay. You can definitely, be thinking through things a little bit, but not in a way that feels tiresome or not in a way that you feel disengaged from the game at all. If I had one complaint about the game, it would be the token colors. Okay. There are shovels that also just let you move the tracks. There's all sorts of little details I didn't go into, but there are keys and jewels are two of the different token types. They're very similar to my eyes. They're similar enough in color that they're difficult. You have to really look at the board to see, okay, is that a key tile or is that a jewel tile? Right. I wish that they were a little more differentiated in color so that they were easier to pick up at a quick glance. Ultimately, that's a nitpick. It doesn't inhibit the game. It's just something that I notice when I play. But Prowler's Passage for 2 players, J. Alex Cavern, very, very clever game. I really enjoy it.
So this is one that's on my shelf. I really want to play it, but I'm one of those people where it's hard for me right now to get 2-player games to the table.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely want to. I opened it. It looks great. But again, it's trying to get there. So from what you're talking about, I think I'm going to like it. So I may just have to grab a colleague and let's play this during a lunch hour or something.
Does Renegade ever get their games on Tabletop Simulator or any of those on Tabletopia or any of those things?
I'm trying to think because I'm on Tabletopia and I
don't know. I've never looked it up.
I don't remember seeing, if there aren't very many from the last time that I checked. Maybe it's changed.
Oh, okay.
But you're right. Actually, I don't.
We should go look because I would play I would play this.
Great. Then you can play with me.
I want to play with you.
I'm looking forward to it. So that's awesome. Okay, excited. I wanted to toss in upcoming games that I have on my shelf that I'm really looking forward to talking about on an upcoming podcast episode are Legend of Korra Pro Bending Arena.
Yay, Korra!
So I know we both have it, and I know you really know the series well. I'm kind of newer to it, so I'm really looking forward to trying that. And, the design team behind it are Canadian. Woo! So, got to show them love and support.
Love it.
4 because, we talked about it at CMON Expo, so I'd really like to get a full gameplay in. And Tapple. I know people are like, really? I like word games and stuff, so I'm always looking for... You've played it? Okay, I've never played it. So
You've never played Tapple?
I've never played Tapple.
Oh, get it to the table. I can't wait to hear your impression. I love me some Tapple. All right.
What about you? Any upcoming games that you're looking forward to talking about?
Who, me? No, I haven't played any games. Yeah, I've got... I'm kind of cranking through things because we're headed into convention season when all these other games are coming out. I am still playing through my Tokyo Game Market haul. Wow. So I have all these really nifty little games out of Japan and Taiwan that I'm excited about. I have this game called Pistali that is this gorgeous. It's just a stunning tile laying path creation game where you can stack the tiles to create different paths. That's neat. Really cool looking. I'm excited to get that one and talk a little bit more about that. I've only played it once, so I wanted to give it a few more plays. I've got something lined up for the next shelf staple I'm excited about for a Sealand that's a Ravensburger game that I want to get a few more plays in, but it's going to be a perfect shelf staple game. And, I think that we've got a few other things. Gizmos from CMON is coming out. I'd love to get more plays of that. So we'll see. It's going to be a busy summer.
Now, I just realized that I didn't talk about Charterstone. Yes, I actually completed a legacy game.
You did?
I did. I totally forgot to talk about it, but you know what? We will save that for the next one, and I won't give spoilers, but at least talk about my experience.
You tease.
Let's discuss those previously discovered board game gems in Shelf Staple. With all the new games coming out, it is so hard for me to get some of these older games to the table. I'm always a struggle when it comes to Shelf Staple. I have so many, but like I said, hard to get to the table. So I'm cheating a little bit this week.
What?
So For my choice, I picked Masters Gallery, which was published in 2009, but I'm also going to talk about the re-implement Modern Art, which was, I think, in 2017, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the reprint, sure. The reprint.
So I might be not 100% on the year, but the reprint by Simon. So technically it's a shelf staple. Okay.
Sure. No, absolutely. And Modern Art came out a while ago, too, in the Simon version. It'd been out of print for a while. So, all right. You're trying to get a twofer and playing with the timeline a little bit. Okay. You're lucky I like you, lady. I'll let it pass.
All right. So hopefully everyone is as forgiving. So it was designed by Rainer Knizia. Artist is Edgar Degas, Claude Monet, Paul Niemeyer, Pixel Productions. There's several artists in this game. By the way, Edgar Degas is one of my favorites. Published by Eagle Griffin Games. And you'll know the box because it kind of almost looks like the old for sale boxes. So I think it was part of that kind of series, if you will. So in Master Gallery, you're playing an art critic and gallery owners at the same time, right? And basically, you're trying to elevate the cost of paintings that you're trying to sell. And, there are 5 artists that they show in the game: Vermeer, Degas, Renoir, Monet, and Van Gogh. And these are some of the ones you'll see. This is slightly different to Modern Art, which uses more, modern artists. Yeah. So if you like the kind of older kind of Renaissance style or those types of art, this is going to be for you. Versus Modern Art, it's a bit newer. Each player starts with a set of cards, masterpiece cards. On your turn, you're going to put one out. And basically, you want to try and you want to sell that painting, get the highest value for this painting. Okay. And this is much like Modern Art, same sort of thing, except in Modern Art, I love the auction mechanics. Yeah, I said that. Anybody who knows me knows I don't love auction bidding type stuff. Love it in Modern Art, how you can do different types of bidding dependent on the symbol on the card. I think that's fantastic. So obviously certain artists you want to push more if you want them to kind of have a higher value when it comes time to scoring. If you have those cards, like if I have a certain artist, I'm going to want to try and push that and have as much of that artist out as possible so it drives up the value for the end of game scoring. So it takes place over 4 rounds, same as Modern Art. And what you're going to do at the end of the round, once paintings have been sold, when you get to a certain amount, the game kind of stops. It's like, okay, that round is over, and then you see how many of a certain artist is out. And then you determine who has the most, second most, third most, and that will determine how much worth it is. So I think in this game it goes from 1 to 3. So 1 obviously being the lowest, 3 the highest. Modern Art, I think it's 10, 20, 30. They do it in thousands, I think. And then each painting you have of that artist is worth the point value that it's listed at. So therefore, you're going to have a couple artists where you get nothing if you have those in front of you. So basically it goes over 4 rounds, and then basically the player or players with the most money will win the game. So I don't think there was very much change between the 2 games, with the exception the art is obviously the most obvious change. Mm-hmm. I picked this one because the first one for me, I don't know why, it felt kind of sad. I don't know if it was the color choices they use. Potentially, like I said, I am a big fan of Edgar Degas. So the art itself I can respect and understand, but I feel like the color palette of the actual box in the game was very dark.
Oh, okay.
And usually I'm all about dark, but in a game like this, I feel like it needed to have that punch of color or something. And I found Modern Art definitely opened it up and brightened the palette of the game, but the gameplay is generally the same. Like I said, I do enjoy the fact the auction part of it, you have cards where you can have, if you play a card that has a little tag symbol on it, it's a price that you fix. You have cards where you have an open auction. You have cards with a symbol where it's a closed auction. I like the variety because then it allows you to kind of decide how you want the game to go. At Simon, we played this with Robert Geislinger, Dan King, and basically I had never thought Robert was such a savage player. He was so dirty.
Very much so.
But he wasn't afraid to spend money. And in this game, you can't be cheap, which I noticed and Dan noticed because we lost badly.
Gotta spend money to make money.
Exactly. So overall, this is my choice. I definitely think you should try it out. Even if auction kind of bidding mechanic is not your thing, this could potentially change your mind. I've taught it to a few people and they actually really enjoyed it. I think it only takes, it only plays in about an hour or so. So it doesn't overstay its welcome, which I like. Get to see some really nice art, very straightforward mechanics. I mean, that's it. You make your money. You push the art you want to see sell, and you have to be strategic in trying to push the right artist so you can make that money. So that is Masters Gallery / Modern Art.
Cheater.
Look at who's coming up next here.
All right. I feel very called out. Well, darn it, I had this planned, and then Eric goes and steals my thunder in an episode just a couple episodes ago with Felix Cat in the Sack.
Oh.
Of course, Eric talked about Felicity Cat in the Sack, which is fair enough. And I decided, to heck with it. I'm going with it because I want to talk about this game because I enjoyed it so much, and Eric enjoyed it too. So we're simpatico. So we're solid. We're solid. But you would have heard about Felix Cat in the Sack just a few episodes from Eric. So I won't, designed by Friedman Freeze. It's a 2F Spiele game. Stronghold reprinted it as Felicity Cat in the Sack. And it's got this weird, charming art by Lars Arne Kaluski, which I really enjoy the art in this one. It's kind of cartoony and silly, and it somehow enhances the game for me.
Nice.
It's a hand management and auction game with a fair amount of bluffing depending on how you play it. You've got these cards that you contribute to this row face down. Each player puts one in. And so you don't know what other players put in. You know what you put in. And then it's an auction. You have to put coins. You have to bid whether you're going to take the cards or not. When somebody passes, they can take this money back, and then a card is revealed. So you're learning, as people pass, you learn more information about what's in, what cards have been contributed, and then you decide, oh, that's really great, or oh, that's not so good. Oh, now my money's in. I got to pass. I got to reveal more information, or no, that's great. I want to stay in. You know what cards people have typically, so there's a little bit of card counting you can do to kind of up the strategic element of the game. But really, it's a light game. It's quick. It's light. It's just fun. And I got taught this game a while ago by my friend Marguerite, Maggie Bot. Mm-hmm. She used to do a segment for Board Game Breakfast, I think, a while back, and things like that. She's a great gamer. She works in the industry as well. She works at a distributor, but she taught me Felix Cat in the Sack, and I was angry at her afterwards because it was out of print and I couldn't get it. I'm like, darn it, I just had this wonderful gaming experience at a board gaming cafe. We played this light auction game. It was totally engaging and fun and quick and easy to learn. And now I can't have it. And I was mad. So then I went out and made an effort to find it and get it on sale aftermarket, which wasn't necessarily, convenient.
Right.
And then Stronghold Game says, oh, well, we're just going to remake Felix Cat in the Sack with Felicity Cat in the Sack. And so voila, now everybody can have it. I was like, well, gee, thanks for letting me know a year too late. Wah, wah.
Reboot.
But honestly, Felix or Felicity Cat in the Stack, it holds up for just a really engaging auction hand management game. I know, Mandy, you just talked about how auction games aren't necessarily your thing, but I would recommend you try this one out. I just think it's light enough, and the way that the passing works with the reveal and the hidden information, it's super duper fun. And the Felix Cat in the Sack originally came out in 2007. The reprint, I think, was just in 2017. So it's nice to see that game designs that were solid and maybe fell out of print are being revitalized so that other gamers get to try them, because Felix Cat in the Sack or Felicity is definitely worth a try.
So I actually have played it. So
okay.
I played it. I liked it. I didn't love it. It was very cute. I liked the art. And I think for me, like I said, I think with modern art, by the way, I was so wrong on the date for modern art. I thought it was way sooner. It's actually like 1992. So my apologies.
Yeah. The original modern art was it's basically a classic. Yeah.
Yeah. So 1992. So my apologies on that. But I liked it. Don't get me wrong. It was fun. I liked it. I don't know if it was a love for me, but again, it's that mechanic that I'm not crazy about. And I think the reason why modern art appealed to me is because it had different types of kind of auction. So not a bad game by any means. I just don't know if I love it, but it's a like. It's a like game. If someone had it out, I'd totally play it. It's cute.
Well, I love it. So we'll balance each other out that way. And that is Felix or Felicity Cat in the Sack for our shelf staple.
Hit that pledge button and take my money.
Every once in a while, we like to look at a game project on crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter. And today, Mandy and I wanted to talk about Herbaceous Sprouts that's on Kickstarter because we got to try it and figured, why not talk about it? It's designed by Eduardo Baraf, Steve Finn from Dr. Finn's games, and there's a solo mode designed by, oh boy, Keith Mateka. Oh, I'm so sorry, Keith, who is the designer of Role Player, really well known for being the designer of Role Player. The art is by Beth Sobel and Benjamin Schulman, and it's published by Pencil First Games, which is Ed Baraf's publishing house. And Herbaceous is a card game that was released last year, the year before, something like that.
I think so, around there, yeah.
Quick, light, kind of drafting card game that was just a really big hit. Of course, it featured gorgeous, gorgeous art, and people really enjoyed it. Well, Herbaceous Sprouts comes out, and it's really a dice game for all intents and purposes, right? You've got a market that gets set up. You have these cards, and dice get rolled and put on these cards, and players are going to draft the cards, for lack of a better word. And there is a centralized board with different garden areas that have different things you can do. Maybe you want to plant 2 of a kind of the same seed type to get a token in this area. Or maybe you want to plant a specific type of blooming flower in this area. Or maybe there's a run that you want to do here. There's each little zone in this garden has different requirements. So the dice get rolled, they get put on these cards, and then you're drafting these cards to get those dice so that you can fulfill those requirements. The cards also sometimes have special abilities, like maybe they'll have a free sprout on them, maybe they'll let you replant something. There's little special abilities on these cards, so you're kind of balancing the value of the card on the dice they have with the special ability and all that good stuff. So you get these dice, you put them on your player board, you eventually assign them to these plots to put your tokens in. And really, that's the game. It's very simple mechanically. The dice are randomized as you roll them, so they get assigned randomly, so you never know what the value of a given card is going to be. And then, of course, between rounds, the cards refresh and things like that. So you got to play 3 times. Oh, I only got to play once. Oh, well, why am I talking about Mandi? I'll shut up.
No, it's good. No, you're doing great with the description. That's perfect. So, yeah. So it's hard. So I have Herbaceous, the original, and then I've played this. This is one of those games where I feel like you don't need both.
Oh, interesting.
I almost feel like this should have been the game that came out.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's bad. I find Herbaceous, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with it. It's fun. I have it. It's very, very simple. The art's beautiful. I get it. I find that with the dice, I mean, it's fun. Everybody likes dice, but you're running into a very similar idea, with the set collections. And I mean, it looks like it's a continuation of the first, but you're adding the dice and adding a few more like abilities and powers on the cards. But in my opinion, I don't necessarily feel that you need both.
I can see that being true. I've only played it once, so I don't want to make any dramatic statements, but I will say in my first play, I actually enjoyed this version, the Herbaceous Sprouts, more than I personally enjoyed Herbaceous, the card game. Right. So I think we're somewhat aligned on that front. But
yeah, I would agree with you.
I liked it. I think the dice will, we played with prototype sticker dice and stuff like that. I'm sure that the final dice will be really, really nice. The art is gorgeous. And, kind of the race to the board to figure out where you can make your most points and the push your luck on what's going to come, not push your luck, but kind of gauging your odds on what's going to come out in the future and what you want to save dice up for versus capitalize on sort. Because once a plot is taken in the garden, it's gone. So, you can hold on hoping for the bigger scoring areas, but then you're probably missing out on the lower point value zones and a bunch of low point zones added up, may eventually equalize with that high point one that you saved up for. So there's a little bit of I don't know, not planning per se, because it's a little too random for that, but you definitely have to make choices there about what you're going to do.
Absolutely. And I think that's it. And that's when you just have that option of more choices. I think the first one is a bit more push your luck. I guess that's kind of in this as well. I mean, I love dice. I mean, and everyone's like, it's luck based. Yeah, whatever. I still like dice. I don't care. I like to roll them and you know what, who cares? I enjoy it and I enjoy that element. And so what if it has a bit of luck? Doesn't matter. I'm having fun with it. I like that. So I do agree with you. I do think I preferred this game over the original. Not to say that it was bad. I just have that preference. So it's on Kickstarter. Check it out. I think it will appeal to a lot of people. And if people do not have the first game, they may enjoy this one.
Yep. Campaign ends June 18th.
Yep. So that's Herbaceous Sprouts. Let your fingers do the walking in. Tap that app.
I love how we're getting ready to record this segment, Mandy, and you're literally playing this game before we record.
That should tell you that it's good. So, yeah, I will tear myself away from it. But
yeah, to talk about it. Thanks.
So the game in question right now is One Deck Dungeon, and I can happily say that is now available in an app form. Game is designed by Chris Cieslik. Artist is Alana Cervenak and Will Pitzer. Published by Asmati Games, and then with the app Handelabra Games. So I believe they're the ones that brought the app to life. Platforms Steam, iPad, and Android. So I was just playing it on my iPad. So for those not familiar with the game, it is a solo game, but it can also be played cooperatively with 2 players. I know if you add multiple decks, it can be more. Right now in the app, it's 1 or 2 players. So you've got cards and you've got dice, and it's basically you're doing kind of a dungeon exploration within this game. And you have characters where you're trying to build up your character in order to gain abilities, more dice, and this is what you need to kind of fight the perils, the monsters, in order to gain more of these things, potions, dice, and so forth. So building up your character. Defeating a card gets added to your character, and this is how you are able to use these benefits, which tend to be continuous. It's a game where you don't want to spend too much time. It's somewhere you want to really get moving, because every time, you're going into rooms and exploring and you're not finishing things, you're losing time, you're losing health, and it gets increasingly more difficult to win. So basically what you're trying to do is trying to reach that boss monster, defeat them, and obviously you want to build up your character to be so strong that you can beat them and win the game. Yeah, that generally doesn't happen when I play it. It has been no different in the app.
Yeah.
So it is true to the game. I mean, I love this game. I've done a full playthrough with Michael when we do our playthrough teach and plays on video, and we really enjoyed it. Actually, we played it once. We lost within like 20 minutes, and then we was like, okay, let's just maybe restart that and do it again so you can actually see some of the game. So in the app, it's very representative of the game. So if you're familiar with the game, it looks the same. Like the characters look the same, the art is the same, which can I just say, it's like all women cast. What's up? Love it. It's
well, and they got a lot of heat for that from certain people.
And I don't get that, because you know what? It's great. I love it. It's inclusive. It's great. And you know what? I'm happy to have it. Happy to play it. Love it. So the gameplay for me is fantastic, and it is definitely still represented here in the app. So if you're familiar, it will still continue to look familiar to you. I do found it was fairly easy to navigate. I did find when I tried the quick games, I wanted to try it out, and you can have, I don't know if it's like an assistant or whatever that kind of helps you through the game. I'm like, okay, let's try this. I'm going to pretend I've never played this. For the most part, the prompts are good. I did find sometimes there were not evident prompts, like it was very vague when it was telling you to do something. So for example, with when you want to exchange 2 dice for one of the black die, so that gives you can use that as any color. It just kind of tells you to put it over to the side menu, but it doesn't highlight where on that side menu they're talking about. Okay. So I just kind of started dragging stuff around. Like, oh, there it is. You know what I mean? So that could have been a bit more evident. So that's a little thing. I found it eventually, but just to make things a little bit easier. I did find there was a delay in some of the transitions. So when it was going to maybe just like a different scene or loading, it took a little while. Now that could be an internet issue, but I have actually excellent internet. I have 5G, and I've got like a couple ways that I use for streaming.
How old's your iPad though?
It's an iPad Air 2.
Which isn't the newest model, so that may be a processing thing too.
And that's what I'm saying, yeah. So this is actually, so this is the model prior to the Pro whatever that's out now. Yeah, so it's the one before that. So you're right. And it totally could be that as well. So this is where it's kind of like it could be that, or it could just be it's a large app and, maybe it is just needs that time to process. I'm not sure, but that was
something
my experience with it.
Got it.
But there's only a couple scenes where that kind of happened. So overall, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I love it. I'm playing it as we speak right now. But I like the fact that I can carry it with me. Solo games, I'm not a solo gamer, but I tend to do solo when it's in an app form. So that to me, it's like great. It just makes it more accessible to me. So I definitely recommend that you try it out. I'm loving it right now. It looks great, easy to navigate for the most part, and it's familiar. So that is One Deck Dungeon. Love it.
That's so great. I haven't gotten the official version. I actually got to play the beta a little bit, and it was on Steam for a while before it actually hit the mobile devices. Now in the beta, I had a blast with it. I'm having, So I'm glad that you're enjoying it. And Candelabra is also responsible for the Sentinels of the Multiverse app, which is one of my all-time favorites. So they're really the bottom of the ninth as well. Really top tier app development group out there. So I'm sure if you were to tell them that you were having some slowdown issues, they may take a look at that. I mean, there's optimizations that they may be able to do. But, I think it's a really relevant comment for people who may be listening because everybody has a wide variety of devices. And the reality is for all app development, as you advance and devices get older, sometimes you just run into these issues where older devices don't handle newer code as well as they could or should. And it's a tough one. I think it's a tough one for app developers to keep up with all the different operation system iterations and different screen sizes and things like that. So I think it's a really relevant comment. That's something people should be aware of. But I'm glad you're enjoying it because I love One Deck Dungeon. And
so good.
I also feel similar to Mandi, solo play games, I like them in real life. I do play them in real life.
Right.
But they make amazing app experiences in general. So that's cool.
Absolutely.
Mine is not a solo player game by really any stretch of the means, and that is 8 Minute Empire. It's an area control game, and I find area control games are often better with at least a pretty full player count. Solo area control can be odd in real life, I'd imagine. Designed by, so 8 Minute Empire is a Red Raven game, which means it's designed by Ryan Lockett. The art is by Ryan Lockett. It was published by Red Raven, which is Ryan Lockett's publishing house. But he did not do the development on the app. Ha-ha! So Ryan cannot do
not everything
yet. He's probably busy learning how to code right now, as I speak. But Acrom Digital did the development. And I've really liked the 8 Minute Empire game. I like the 8 Minute Empire Legends version a little bit better typically, although this app could make me a convert. This is a card-based area control game where you have a map and you're just vying to have the most units in a given sector of the map and then in a given zone sometimes. You are buying cards from this market row, and they're cheaper further to the left. And then as cards are purchased, everything slides down. Cards have a variety of actions. Maybe it's add soldiers or get a certain number of movement action points or get a boat that allows you to cross water. There's all sorts of little different action castles and stuff like this. And then they'll often have a resource on it. There's a variety of resources in the game as well, and there's a set collection element. So not only do you have the area control, but you have this little set collection thing with these resources and they all, depending on the rarity, they score in different ways based on the quantity you have too. From an app point of view, I think Acrom did a great job on the app. Ryan's art is all there, but there's subtle little ambient animations they added that kind of bring it to life a little bit, but it still looks and feels very much like a Red Raven game.
Right.
The UI is very intuitive. It's very easy to grab the cards. The scoring, which is always lovely in an app, is all done automatically for you. And there's a nice little chart so you can see how you're progressing against different resource tracks and things like that. And you just tap to move units, all very intuitive, plays like a dream, great experience. I will say it does have a colorblind mode for players that have color blindness. And so I think that you can toggle that on and off, which I think is really, really nice. I will say it's a little bit subtle. There's symbols that get added to the soldiers. So depending on what you're playing on, it can be hard to see. And I will also say it's best on a tablet. You can absolutely play it on a phone. I do play it on my phone just because it's so convenient, but the units get very, very small. And then there's the way the units are represented. It's a unit icon with a little number next to it. On the phone, it gets tiny. It gets very, very small to see. So you can zoom in, and if you're willing to zoom and stuff like that, then it's no big deal. But definitely something to consider. I think it plays better on a tablet just from an ability to read everything clearly.
But I'm glad you say that because I know for myself, I play a lot of my games, believe it or not, on my phone.
Sure. I do
so,
too.
No, that's good. That's great to know.
Yeah. The zooming helps and the colorblind thing. But if you're colorblind and visually impaired, it could be rough to play on the phone. That said, it's nice that they have that consideration in there. And I think that's an important element. The other thing about this app that is worth calling out is that it's got expansions and new maps. So the 8-Minute Empire app has maps that aren't available in real life. So if you like the game, the app actually has more variability than the physical game, which I think is just awesome, because that's one of the things about 8-Minute Empire that was maybe my nitpick about it, is it didn't have a ton of intergame variability. But the app offers that because there's all these different maps. It has the mountains expansion. It has the goods tokens as these are like little tokens that can potentially be a bonus depending on what you have when you land in that zone, things like that. Those are, you can toggle those on or off. So it adds gameplay variability as well. So all of that leads to a really great app gameplay experience. Now, I'm just going to say this. Acrom Digital had a little bit of a kerfuffle with Steam. So the app is available on iOS and Android. Plays great, like I've talked about. It was available on Steam, but unfortunately, Acrom got caught juicing their reviews on Steam. Scandal for sure. Now, they weren't, from what I've read, they weren't making up reviews, but they were doing some point promotions to boost their reviews in ways that wasn't allowed by the platform. And they've been banned from Steam. Now, I know they're fighting it and they're trying to explain what they did, because Steam is very competitive and it can be very difficult to get attention from the audience on Steam. And I'm sympathetic to developers trying to get that foothold and attention, but they admit they broke the rules. And so they're trying to work that out with Steam to get reinstated there. So while the game was available on Steam, it is not currently available on Steam. Maybe it'll come back. I don't know. It's an unfortunate thing that happened pretty much all the way around. Acrom does good work. It's unfortunate that they maybe made a poor choice around how they handled reviews on Steam. But I've played other games of theirs. I've played 8-Minute Empire, very, very solid app experience, especially in iOS, where they maybe haven't had those problems. Maybe, I don't. I wanted to be transparent about that and bring that up. But from just a pure app experience within the mobile platforms, 8-Minute Empire is really a great board game app and definitely worth a look.
Yeah, and 8-Minute Empire is one I actually just recently played. I know I'm late to the game in, tabletop version. So I enjoyed it. So I'm actually very much looking forward to trying out the app so that I can take it with me.
There you go.
Q&A.
We thought we would wrap up the episode with just a few questions from our mailbox. Don't forget, you can always email us. We have new Dice Tower emails. We're definitely a little lighter on questions that we've been in the past, and I think it's partly because people don't realize we have these emails. So,
I think so.
Don't forget to send us your questions. But got a few that we want to go over. So, Mandy, you want to hit up the first one?
Sure. So this is coming to us from Nick K, otherwise known as Jobby. I just had a quick thought. Hit me as I was looking at Seven Wonders expansions. How many expansions do you think a board game should get before they offer a big box version that includes either all the expansions or at least room to store them all? So, and a very nice compliment at the end. So thank you very much, Nick. Wow. That's a good one. I don't know. As soon as I would probably say once you start getting into the multiple expansions, like 3, I feel that it deserves or warrants a big box, especially when you want to store them, because I'm the type of person that puts all of the expansions in the main box and I toss the other boxes. Yeah. Unless the art is like super gorgeous and I have to keep the box, I usually just toss the other boxes or put them away and put everything in the one box because I just don't have the room. So for me, once you start getting into multiples, I'd even go into like 2, and if there's potential for more, then I think that should be available. But I think 3 is a nice round number. Yeah, I'd go a little higher, maybe in the 4. It depends on the size and the style of the expansions too. Like Seven Wonders is interesting because a couple of the expansions were just cards, essentially, right? And a few tokens. Shove those in the base box that you already have. But then they started introducing, Babel and the bigger board elements. And then that's where it probably would be nice to get them all in the same box. So I would say it depends on the game and what the component format of the expansions is. But I would say
probably 4 more, because I think when you have to gauge demand too.
Sure.
I mean, you only come out with expansions for games that are selling. Otherwise, you wouldn't invest the time and money. And then, but once you come up with a big box, now you're gauging that there's enough demand for the game that all the people who've been buying the base and the expansions, there's enough interest in the game that the people will finally jump in and get the big box, or people would be willing to rebuy and trade away, whatever they had previously. And that's a pretty big, that's some heavy sales math calculation there. So that's a tough one. But I would say probably a little bit higher. 4 or more would be where I'd start being interested in it.
I definitely think some of the older games that have been around for a while, like Fresco and things like that, I know for people who have never purchased them before, they were starting to get really expensive. Fresco, I think, oh my gosh, Five Tribes was another one. Like, I think when I bought Five Tribes, it was like $25-30. Now it's like $70 in Canada for just the regular box. But I heard it's expensive. But I heard they're coming out with a big box. And I wonder if that's to offset costs so people can feel like they can afford it and get the expansions as well. Just something to consider. But you're right. I think weight of game and popularity, that all plays into it. So, but I'm still sticking with 3. Okay.
Another Nick from Australia. I've been in the hobby for about 5 years now, and as I explore more games, I'm less comfortable with games that gamify certain topics. Different people have different thresholds. Like some people avoid supernatural themes, but colonization is a thing that happened and is still happening and negatively impacting people's lives. Puerto Rico, Santa Maria, Mombasa gamify colonization in a way that doesn't feel fun to Nick anymore. Likewise for games about the Wild West or Native American people being reduced. The examples go on and on. And Nick is asking how we feel about that. What is our line when deciding if a game's theme is just too uncomfortable making? Give Nick Trading in the Mediterranean any day.
Are we sure this isn't... wait, sorry to interrupt. That last line, it made me think, are we sure Robert Geislinger didn't actually disguise himself? Because we all know how he loves his cubes and trading in the Mediterranean.
I love my cubes. Yeah, for sure. This is definitely a heavier topic. And, we talk about this occasionally when it comes up in games. I know when I talked about Santa Maria, I brought up some of my concerns about or my discomfort with some of the thematic elements in the game. And I think ultimately Nick really hit it. People's thresholds vary on different topics. It's very personal. Unless it's really obscene and just horrible, I have kind of grown into this position where it is okay to like things that are problematic.
Sure.
The reality is if colonization is something that is discomforting or problematic because of the history of the world,
right?
It's actually okay for you to still enjoy the game on some level. I just tell people now, talk about that. Feel free to say that. You can say, I like this element and this element and this element. I wish this element was different. That's not you destroying the game or condemning it or hammering the designers. It's just another element of the game that you are talking about. And uncomfortable thematic elements are something I talk about when I talk about games. And
as do I.
I will continue to as we move forward. But I balance that against the game experience as a whole. I try to balance that against my understanding that different people feel differently about that.
Yep.
And just try to be open and honest and upfront about my position on it, understanding that, there's a balance in these things. It's a difficult topic for sure. It's contentious. We see that on the internet, in the comments, on Board Game Geek Guilds, etc. So definitely a challenging topic. My advice would be, go with your gut. The beautiful thing is there are so many games coming out each year now. If there's a game that you are less than comfortable with the theme, thankfully, there's going to be an alternative for you out there.
Absolutely. I agree with a lot of what you've said there. I am the type of person, I'm always curious. When I see a game, I'm like, okay, I potentially see this going in a direction. Then I kind of go, okay, you know what? Let me see what it's about. Before I can judge it, let me see what it's about. I'll be honest with you. I've played Puerto Rico. I'm okay with not playing it again. Just, I'm not comfortable with the theme. But if somebody else wants to play it and they enjoy it, that's their prerogative. And, and I'm not going to slight someone because of that. Santa Maria is another one. I like the gameplay, but it's one of those games I felt the theme, it could have been anything. It could have been about Breaking Bad, if you're familiar with that show. It literally could have been about that. So things like that, I think, bother me. Like, it's just like, if it could be anything, why would you go that route? So I definitely am one that's willing to try it and at least see where the person's coming from. And then I kind of make a decision. Okay, that's just not for me. But yes, I will continue to talk about it. I will continue to explore and see how people are viewing things and how they're putting it into board games. We have to do that as people who are reviewing games and see it from the other perspective. May not always agree with it. So all in all, if a game generally makes me feel uncomfortable or I'm not comfortable with the approach, or I just won't play it. And that's just, I'll try it at first, obviously, to see, and then make that decision that maybe it's not for me and I won't play it again.
There you go. Okay, last up.
Yeah. So this question is from Kajornvut Unjai. So I'm going to try that again. Kajornvut Unjai. I hope I pronounced that right. I was practicing. So if it's not, please let me know and we'll correct that for the next time. So, in the question, it's me and my girlfriend always play board games together regularly. She's an animal lover, so last March, I decided to surprise her with a copy of Snow Tales. It works well. She loves both the gameplay and the theme. However, ask themselves, they're really too much into gaming to buying board games as a gift for others. So are they too much involved in it? Do you have the same experience in the past? If so, what games did you buy in that special occasion? So I want to make sure I'm understanding the question. Is the fact that you're so involved in that world that you tend to buy a certain type of game for the occasion, or just buy a game in general versus buying something else? Is that where the question is going, you think, Suzanne? I'm not 100%.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I just kind of read it as how much into gaming does somebody have to be before you start purchasing them games as a gift? That's kind of how I'm interpreting it.
Okay, so we're going to go with that. I'll be honest with you. I buy games for my coworkers at Christmas time, especially anything that's thematic, like related. So Christmas, there's 12 days of Christmas. There's a couple of them. And I'm generally, around new people. I will, because they're, $10 a box or whatever, and I'll buy a whole bunch for coworkers for gift exchange. It's great. And everyone knows how much I love board games, so they can expect it. And I buy something simple enough that they'll be able to play with their kids or their family, just get a little taste and maybe convert them to the dark side. But, that's a whole other thing. But family, friends are close to me. Believe it or not, a lot of my close friends and family do not play board games. So in my immediate family, that was always a thing. But some of my cousins and stuff and some of my best friends, they are not into board games.
Which is okay.
Which is fine. So if I buy them a board game, it would be a complete waste of my time and money. So in that case, it wouldn't happen. So what about you, Suzanne?
Yeah, similar to you, I bought, for example, this past holiday season, I bought all my coworkers and they got a copy of Codenames and a copy of No Thanks.
Nice.
And a lot of them don't play games or just play, typical mass market games or whatever, maybe Cards Against Humanity. And they seemed like they were really well received. Mm-hmm. For my kids, I pick a game for that year and buy a bunch of copies of it, especially when it's on sale. And then that's the gift. So one year it was Click Clack Lumberjack. One year it was Loop and Chewy. One year it was Dr. Eureka. And especially with kids, right? Because kids love games. So it's a go-to for me. Birthday gifts for kids are go-to. But like you said, Mandi, not everybody likes games. And if you know somebody well enough to give them a gift, I would imagine you would have a strong enough sense of whether or not they'd be pleased by a game as a gift or whether they would prefer a scented candle. I don't know.
Right.
I'm really awful with the gift giving, clearly. Just pick the person, kind of read them out and go for it. But if they're at all open to games, go for it. Just know them well enough to pick one that may appeal to them either thematically or mechanically.
Exactly. And you know what? At the end of the day, it's a gift. They know it comes from the heart, and I think they would appreciate it regardless. So it's the thought that counts legitimately. So there you go. So I think those were a great bunch of questions we had. And like Suzanne said, we've got those shiny new emails, which are, Suzanne, you want to go ahead with that?
Yeah. So you can always email us, Suzanne@dicetower.com or
Mandi with an I, @dicetower.com.
So feel free to send us any questions our way. I think that's going to wrap it. I think that's an episode.
Yeah, we just tossed it all in there this time so we can just get right back into our regular programming.
Get back into the groove and reboot. Oops.
Oh, yeah. Reboot.
Thank you, as always. I can't tell you, we went to CMON Expo and had a number of people come up and introduce themselves because they knew us from either our videos or from the podcast. And it's such a pleasure to meet you all. So thank you for that. Thank you for that support. Thank you for listening. It honestly, it means so much to us. So glad that you could join us this episode. Next episode, 558, the dynamic duo of Tom and Eric are back, and they'll be talking cooperative games. So make sure you tune in then.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vasel Memorial Fund is an organization dedicated to helping gamers in need. Learn more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvasel.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Suzanne, Mandi, and Eric, with assistance from Itai Perez, Derek Porter, Rob Searing, and Jeff Rademacher. Our theme is composed by Timothy Pinkham and arranged by Matt Bellier. And hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. All right, it is that time again for Two Truths and a Lie. And the last time we were on, we were at CMON Expo. We had Dan King joining us. So let's start with his Two Truths and a Lie.
Hello, my friends. It's the Game Boy Geek here. And last time I gave you these two truths and a lie. I was a straight A student. I was the captain of my high school football team. And I danced as Chuck E. Cheese at the Chuck E. Cheese restaurant. Well, folks, the lie was... I was not a straight A student. I was about a B+ student. I was on the Dean's List in college for engineering, but I wasn't a straight A student. I had too many other things going on. But so that was the lie. The truth of, yes, I was the captain of my high school football team. I grew up as a big jock, which is probably why I'm not too much into pop culture and stuff like that. But baseball, basketball, football, and I still play a lot of sports today and do stuff like that. Very active. And the last and most fun one, the Chuck E. Cheese thing. I actually was the assistant technical manager. I was studying electronics before I went to engineering in high school, and I used to fix the arcade games when they would break, and I would run basically the technical sides of things there. And one day, they full-time Chucky could not make it into work, and in a pinch they asked anybody to step in. I was like, oh man, I kind of like ended up just getting talked into doing it, and I did it, and I had a blast. And I realized that once I put that suit on and I put that head on and nobody actually knew who I was and they couldn't see me, I just realized I could be the biggest idiot in the world and make people laugh and smile, and I wouldn't feel stupid for doing it. So I used to go all out and crazy. Actually, we had people from other Chuck E. Cheese stores coming to watch my performances because they said they were so crazy. I was breakdancing. I would jump up on the table and start dancing. Like, it was nuts. It was so much fun. But I told him I wouldn't do it too much longer because the person that did it a lot, he sweated quite a bit, and that suit stunk. Oh my gosh. I thought I had a career in the future of being like some type of sports mascot or something like that, but that never happened, but maybe someday it will.
All right, Dan, well, thanks for sharing. I never would have guessed that. What about you, Suzanne?
Oh my gosh, the Chuck E. Cheese dancing. I really need to see photos of this, or video would be better.
I thought I knew Dan so well, but apparently even these things can surprise us. So my reveal from the last episode, let's do a recap here. Love the show Dexter. I love the show Game of Thrones, and I love the show Friends. If you guessed that I love the show Friends as the lie, you would be correct. I think I was the only person on earth that didn't love the show Friends. But, I kind of go against the grain. So there you go. What about you, Suzanne?
All right. I guess mine were worded weirdly last time, but I've never seen Doctor Who. I've never seen Star Trek Voyager. And I've never seen Babylon 5. And the lie is I've never seen Star Trek Voyager. I watched all of Voyager. I liked Voyager. I'm rock solid on Voyager. But I have never seen an episode of Doctor Who or Babylon 5, which, according to my friend group, I have failed myself in my science fiction television watching habits. So I got to improve on that.
I've even seen those, and we all know my love of science. Anything. Yeah. Okay. So
what's new this week?
New this week for me. Here we go. I am scared of snakes. I'm scared of insects. And I'm scared of large animals.
Ooh, this will be good fodder for when we room together at a convention. I know what plastic animals to bring.
Now I'm scared. How about you, Sue?
And my new ones this week are I sleep with 8 pillows.
Oh, boy.
I cannot fall asleep in dead silence. And I love to sleep on flannel sheets.
Truly Canadian.
Apparently, I'm a little sleepy.
Well, there you go. Good luck, everyone. New from USAopoly is Thanos Rising: Avengers Infinity War, a cooperative dice and card game. In the game, players will recruit heroes and assemble a team to face off against Thanos and his villainous forces in an effort to thwart him from accomplishing his master plan, collecting all 6 Infinity Stones to power the Infinity Gauntlet and wreak havoc on the very fabric of reality. Play with all of your favorite characters to take down Thanos once and for all. Available now at your favorite local game store. It's for 2 to 4 players and for ages 8 and up.